that no one is superior to anyone else strictly because of their race.
Lenny Pena, Daniel Richard, and Po San Ong.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another candidate forum. Tonight, we have candidates running for school committee. Then we got a doozy for everyone here. I would just also like to mention that there are 6 seats for the school committee, and there will be guaranteed 3 new members of the school committee after this year's election. So it's quite important, this race, for everyone to vote, because we will have some new members on the committee. I am your host, Mukala Kabongo, just welcoming you all here. And before we get started, we just would like to go over some ground rules with everyone. So each candidate has 90 seconds to respond to a question. So when there's 30 seconds, everyone will see this yellow. When you see the yellow sign, you'll see that you have 30 seconds. And when you see the red the first time, that means you have 10. And the second time the red goes up, that means your time is up. So we ask you to please stay on par with the 90 seconds for the response. And then at the end, each candidate will have exactly 2 minutes for a closing statement. And once again, I will put up this when there's 30 seconds, and then the red when it's time to wrap up your 2-minute responses. So with that, I know you're all eager to answer these questions that we have lined up for you. And there's some community questions as well from that we received from the community. So this will be a great night, and I hope everyone is prepared. So we shall get started. And for each question, someone new will begin. So for the first question, it will be Donna, and then the second question, it will be Lorraine. So each question, someone new will start, and then we'll just go until we get back to the front. All right. So we should start with Donna. And this first question is simply, if you had to pick 3 pillars to your platform, what would you say they are and why?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, probably buildings, as far as repairing, replacing, retaining staff, and communications is a really important thing that I think that I would like to see changes happening. There's the buildings themselves are in dire need of being replaced. They're long overdue, and we have almost 17,000 kids that fill them. And it's at the point where even repairs just aren't holding them all together. But retaining staff, it's been a very difficult year, and it's not only our school system, but it's many of the school systems that are having trouble retraining. You know, we've hired a lot of people, and on the first day, we had people leave going to other communities to work in other schools. So that was a difficult for us because the start of school was there and there were classrooms that kids were returning to that did not have their permanent teacher, and that we were trying to find staff to fill. So that's been a really important thing, and especially when it comes to trying to replace in the fields of like OT, PT, and speech. Also, that's very difficult to find them. So those were important things, and the communication is a huge thing within the school system, but also just with parents, making sure that parents understand the direction we're going.
Thank you, Donna, for that response. Lorraine, you are next.
Well, first of all, I would like to have on my pillar, it would be safety, making sure that all the students and staff and people that work in our buildings are safe. The second is the schools themselves, and the overcrowdedness that we have in our school system right now is really overwhelming to me, and we have more and more people moving in. So I'm along with Donna on that pillar. We need more schools. We've been fighting for that, and that's why I want to be on that committee coming forward. Is I want to really get the Pickering in there and then start moving on elementary. But I still need to address other issues with overcrowded in the high school. And we'll have to see how that plays out. And then the other thing is, my third pillar would be excellence in education. I would like every child to have excellence in their education. Curriculums need to match up to help each and every student to learn. I'm the chairperson on curriculum, and I think that transparency and communication needed from the administration to my committee, because we find out a lot of times by the way, this is what's going to happen, and then like months later we hear about it. So I need to work on getting them to communicate better. So thank you. Those would be it. Safety, schools, and excellence in education would be my pillars. Thank you.
Thank you. Tiffany Magnolia, you are next.
Thank you. So my first pillar would be the inclusion of voices that don't normally participate within the process. So that's looking kind of structurally at how the meetings are run, but also how PTOs find voices, not just in their individual school, but in the system as a whole. There's a movement right now to get the leadership of all the PTOs together. And I'd like to make sure that they also have an avenue into the school committee and the school administration with regards to that. So I think thinking about how we can include all voices would be one of my pillars. The second would be looking at the process for what's going on with the building of the new Pickering. Right now, we've begun that process, and thinking about how the last time we did a vote for new school buildings, how that process didn't work for the community, and making sure that whatever we have that's a new process for that is robust enough that as we do move forward with building new buildings, we have a process that can really involve as many voices as possible and can have community buy-in. Separate from the individual school is how the community gets involved with it. And then the third pillar would be stewardship of the new monies that are coming into the district through the Student Opportunity Act, but also through the revision in how Chapter 70E funding works. I've long said that Lynn has focused very much on bread, but we might finally have some money for some roses. And I think it's really important to think about what kind of bells and whistles are going to be meaningful for this district and be aspirational in how we go about getting money to do those things. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Sandra, you are next.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. My fair pillows is going to be worth as a more scholarship for our students when they are going to the university. And I would like to be working as a second pillow, the food, the kind of food they serving in our school. I would like to be working about it, because I want to work that the student has better food. That way, they're gonna be happy. They're gonna be happy, and we're gonna make less wasting food on the trash. And the third one is gonna be to improve our programs for the kids and even for the parents. That way the parents be more involved in the school system. And I think that gonna improve the education of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra, for your response. Next is Mr. Eric Dugan.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. I believe my three pillars, first one would be alleviate the overcrowding. Second would be the social emotional needs of our children and trying to meet those. And then the third would be college and career readiness. So alleviate the overcrowding, obviously without new buildings. I know a few of the other candidates have mentioned the new Pickering that's hopefully coming down the line. But also in the meantime, just think we need to do, I think one of the things we can do is try to get those student to adult or, teacher paraprofessional ratios up a little bit and try to, get students working with smaller groups, teacher-led smaller groups, but smaller groups to help with the learning. My second one was the social emotional needs of our students. Obviously, COVID has exposed a raw nerve of our children and the social emotional needs of our children. And I think Lynn's starting to move in the right direction. I know some of the things that have happened with hiring new social workers and guidance counselors, those are all things that are going to help. But there's always more we could do. So I think that's going to be something else. And then I mentioned also college and career readiness. Our graduation rate is at about 79%, and the state average is about 88%. So that's something that obviously we need to look at. Children need other avenues. My son just graduated in the spring and he's off to college, but not every child is equipped for that. So children do need other avenues. Trades are in high demand right now. I think if we start to navigate our children toward those things through the use of Lynn Tech a bit more, we're going to see those graduation rates go up. So I think those would be my three pillars. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Lenny Pena, you are next.
Hey, good evening. First and foremost, thank you, Lynn Community Television, for hosting the forum. My three pillars would be grounds and buildings, to alleviate the overcrowding. And the second would be the social and emotional learning. I know that, touching on what Erica said, there's a lot of new hires and we have a lot of new therapists. And I believe that we could do a lot of work with that, a lot of help with that. And third would be communication, having more of an equitable approach. I feel that we need to include more people and be a little better with our communications. I know that they have a new director that's bilingual, but we can have a little better equitable approach with the communication and try to be more inclusive with other groups and organizations and stuff. And touching on the social emotional learning, I know we just came off a rough year, COVID. I seen it firsthand with kids that I deal with at my other job where I work with the kids at the Y and all kids that I coach, and I seen it firsthand at home. So that's a big thing that we need to work on, and especially grounds and building. Where kids are overcrowding, just a second on what Donna just touched. We're still dealing with a lot of overcrowding in the high schools, and we really got to put this in motion. There's a Pickering. We're working on the new Pickering, and next is the elementary. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Poisson, you are up next.
Hello, everyone. I think I can put it into two pillars. There are actually many, many issues, but if you have seen one of these, I have basically it says a technology school for Lynn, and then the second one is better condition for teacher and student. I think that's encompassing a lot. So yeah, what are we training our children who are our future for, right? In the next 5 years, what kind of world are they facing? And I'm afraid we're preparing them for an economy that is passing away as yesterday. And so we need to really bring upon Lynn a technology school that prepare them for the arriving innovation economy. I would love to dream Lynn as the new innovation hub of the North Shore, not just Cambridge in the greater Boston area, but Lynn as a city, as an innovation hub of the North Shore. We can prepare our students, our children for the oncoming. Yeah, and in terms of better condition for the teacher, I think the overcrowding is going to hit the mental health of the teacher, of the student, as well as the parent. So better communication with the parent, with everyone involved, an example of the food safety and healthy food issue. I think there could have been better communication between the concerned parent and the faculty who the parent approach as well. And so building a new school would help to alleviate our crowdedness, and it will only put in a new school that focus on a curriculum that's more coming toward our economy.
Thank you for your response. Brian Castellanos, you are up next.
Thank you so much, Lynn Community Television, for having us tonight. It's always it's an honor, and I'm very humbled to share space. My first pillar, it's social emotional learning development. I don't just throw it around like a buzzword. I live and breathe SEL because we do need to help close the opportunity gap. We didn't make up on time on learning that we lost through the pandemic. Being on the ground, we've worked with several different features of change, which staffing was one of them, when we included social workers in a different clinical infrastructure, which has been, it's good to have the staffing, but now we got to make sure that we're capitalizing on these new changes. Again, number two would be retention. We need to attack our retention issue that we're having right now. We need to develop a strategic objective and compensation package that's going to really retain our staff and also allow us to compete with other districts. Also, when it comes to diversity as well, that's a real focus of mine. As you know, we have a growing Latino population, and it's a very melting pot of a community that we do need representation. And overcrowding is a pillar of mine. But I would like to just make a conversation and just throw this out there for my third pillar, is to really prepare our students for the 21st century, to offer STEM vocational and learning opportunities like the Discovery Program, to really to expand on the early college promise and develop our students' skill sets that are going to be valuable for the workforce. Definitely very important for a city like Lynn. Thank you.
Thank you. And Daniel Richard, you are up next.
Good evening, everyone. So for me, the three pillars, the first pillar for me is going to be dealing with kids with disabilities and autism. Being a father of a child that has autism and disabilities, it can be very challenging, especially as an immigrant, somebody who came from Colombia. Not knowing how to navigate the system can be very daunting. And when you have a language barrier, it just makes it even more difficult. So opening the lines of communication, making sure that kids are getting the services that they need, but also making sure that parents understand that they have a lot of power in their corner, but also too that they are their strongest and biggest advocates for their kids, and making sure that their kids are comfortable in learning in a safe environment in school. The second pillar for me would come down to retention and staffing. I want to see Lynn Public Schools have a great, robust teachers in the school, but also have diversity. It's going to be very important to have diversity in a community like ours, where there's many different languages being spoken, many different religions, many different people from around the world in our school systems. So we want our school systems to reflect that great diversity we have, but also to understand that the teachers that we do have, making sure that we take care of the teachers that we have here with great pay, and they want to come back and they want to keep bringing new people into the system. And the last pillar for me is going to be schools. Schools are going to be very important. Being a graduate of Lynn Classical and going through the school system myself, I understand what the schools look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for that response. We won't hold it against you that you are a Lynn Classical graduate. That's another story for another day. We have our first community question. This one comes from Pam Edwards. Lorraine, you will start off with this one. Pam's question is, for current committee members, why has the city waited so long to address the need to replace or upgrade the school buildings? For potential committee members, what will you change about the way the school committee currently makes decisions? You're on mute.
Just say the question for me.
You want me to repeat the question?
Yes.
No problem. For current committee members, why has the city waited so long to address the need to replace or upgrade the school buildings? For potential committee members, what will you change about the way the school committee currently makes decisions?
I don't know if we've waited to address the needs of the schools as much as we've had to wait to get into the pipeline for the Mass Association, the Building Association. We were in there for Pickering and another building down in Ward 6, but then the voters voted not to build those because the process that we used was not as effective as, say, when they built Thurgood Marshall. The way that Darren Sear and Buzzy Barton handled that is they went to the neighborhood, each individual parent, and talked to those community members and asked them, what can we do for you because we need new school? So we've been trying. There have been a lot of debacles. I don't know if you remember this, Pam, but the new Classical, there was a big problem with the property they built on. And when the building started to sink, then the building association, Mass Association School Buildings, they sort of like looked at us and said, oh, they don't even know how to put in a building or something, I don't know, but that slowed it down. And then we've been trying really hard to move it forward. So right now we're in that pipeline for a new Pickering. I'm waiting to hear from the study to see if they're also going to add that another building down at, down over there by Lynn Tech. But it's a wait and see game, and getting the monies is important. But the good news is that we do have money to help us pay for buildings, or the portion of the building we don't get from the state. And then hopefully the taxpayers, we don't have to go to them at all, and we can just get these buildings built. So that is why it took so long. It's a long, long process. And I've only been on for 6 years, and I'm still trying to push for schools.
All right.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Lorraine. Tiffany, before we get to you, just reminded the first part of the question is for Donna, Lorraine, and Brian. So, and then the second part of the question is for everyone else. All right. So, Tiffany, you are up next, and if you need me to read the question again, please feel free to ask.
I'm good. Thank you, Mukala. So the answer to the question about what I would change about how the school committee makes decisions is that right now, constituents basically call up or email school committee members and say, here's my position, here's my beef, here's my, whatever. School committee members can, voluntarily take meetings with teachers or with parents or with PTOs, right? They can do that on their own. But there's no built-in mechanism for the school committee to get feedback from its various constituencies. And that seems to be a problem, if you ask me. So there is no advisory committee for families who have kids who play sports. There is no advisory committee for PTOs. There is no advisory, I could go down the list. But basically, all of these various constituency groups should have a version of a pipeline to information into the school committee, so that when school committee members are making their decisions, they can actually ask the group that has their ear to the ground of those issues without having to wait for constituents to come to them. So I like to say, if the only way you can get something done on the school committee is to personally know a member of the school committee, then government isn't working. So I think we need to be really deliberative about how we solicit feedback, whether that's web-based or people-based. I think there's an opportunity for many innovations here. Look at how the meetings themselves are run and how they promote feedback from the community, and then implement some of those changes with regards to the policies of the school committee to make sure everyone can participate.
Thank you for your response. Sandra, you are up next.
Okay, about that part, I will add it what Magnolia said, that we need to make a committee, we all together and sit down at the table and bring all the ideas that we can possibly have it to improve changes, and then make a vote, and whatever is result from that, then we present it to the community and heard the possible ideas that they can have it, to add it to them. And then when we need to talk with the state, then we presented all these possible ideas that we can have a possible solution for that. That way we don't need to wait that longer as the school committee right now is waiting. So for me to give it a feedback more stable about this part, I need to be in the school committee and read how they deliver all the proposal that they could have it. Because it's different when you in than when you are out. So I am out, and then I can be talking about that as much. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Eric, you are next.
Okay, well, thank you, Pam. I think what I would work on is community feedback or input into the meetings. I know that my first kind of in with school committee, and part of the reason I'm running is last fall, sports were canceled. Now, I know that wasn't just the school committee. I know there was lots of people involved in that decision. But as a parent of a senior going into his senior year, that was a bit heartbreaking for me. And for him and for, other people involved. And it wasn't just my son, Tyler, it was a lot of people. And I think the decision to cancel everything didn't come with a lot of community feedback. Now, input. Now, again, I know that was not just the school committee that made the decision, but it's a small slice of what I'm talking about. And so I think there's different things we can do. I know that there's been an open mic at the last few meetings. I know that the menu at the schools has been a hot topic. And there's been an open mic at the last few meetings. I feel like that could be an effective method. But also we could use technology. We can use as easy things as Google Docs and Google questions to send off to the community members that need to give input. So I just feel like that's probably the one thing I would change. Just getting a little more community input to the meetings and a little more feedback from the community members. Thank you. Great question, Pam. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Lenny, you are next.
Hey, unmute. Nope, I'm not unmute. Thank you, Pam. That's a very good question. What I would do different is I would have more frequent communication with constituents and have a little more and try to get more community input from issues that we're having and be a little more transparent. Like I have experience with dealing, as a football director, I have experience with dealing with, communicating with parents and families and getting different input. And that's what I would try to do different. So have more community input, more frequent communication with constituents. And that's all we can do. That's all I would do. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you for your response. Pastor Poisson, you are next.
Thank you, Pam, for that question. My ears are open. I will, any suggestions for how the school committee can be better responsive to the community? I'd love to know that. My thinking is that the school committee, we are very limited in what we can do, and we need to work with the mayor. We need to work with the council. So I think it's best that sort of like what Lenny said, do we do a good job to receive feedback from the constituent? Do we do a good job? Do we create enough avenue for constituent to actually voice their concern instead of what Tiffany said, like unless you know a school committee member, then you can't really address your issue. So I would look into creating different avenue for where the resident, where our constituent can access and voice their concern, and it gets to the school committee table much quicker.
All right. Thank you for your response. Brian, you're up next.
Yeah, so I share a frustration with Pam too, as well, with the fact that we don't have new schools. And if you look over the last 25 plus years, we've been neglected by the state. Now that the Student Opportunity Act, now that we have fundings, it really demonstrated how neglected our district was and how really land poor, and just we had a struggle with the MSBA. We struggled, and they just watched. I think we need to hold the state accountable. And we do have we have Pickering in the pipeline, and we're looking to get another building, but we're in need for 5 more. When you're working with the mayor and the city council, so it's not just on the school committee. So I think that's what's frustrating, and we are limited. And it's been frustrating when you look at the overcrowding and the impact that you see on the day-to-day, because we deal with teachers, families, parents. We deal with the day-to-day every day. And it just feels like we have our hands tied. So I think we need to address policy. We need to hit it from the state and federal side. We need to lobby. We need to get aggressive with how we're really advocating on our buildings. Like, go into Pickering. Like, I've been to these buildings. I went to every school and they're falling apart. Like, this is frustrating for us. I share that. So I'm there. I'm in the ring. I'm willing to compete. Like I always will be, doing the same. I don't see this. I see us in a much better pivot. We need to address that though, but we need to also hold our state, federal delegation in partnership. So yeah, 90 seconds.
Thank you, bro.
Okay. So what I would start to do is when it comes to communication, there are many different forms of communication that the school committee uses. I know a lot of school committee members personally, they have a lot of personal relationships with constituents, which I know is very tough because you can't reach all the constituents, but there are different platforms, from social media to mailings to internet, that are out there. They need to be out there more, and we need to know that those resources are available. Another way that you can get in touch with school committee members that I think could be improved upon is all these school committee meetings that we do have in Lynn. They're all public. And parents, teachers, students, they can all attend these meetings, and they can all come and voice their opinions during open mics. If they have issues, if they have problems, they can email a school committee member directly or a Tutwiler to have their concerns put on the agenda. I've seen this firsthand happen attending the last school committee meetings over the last couple of months. But when it comes to communications, it's building off of what we currently have and being a little more innovative, thinking a little bit more outside the box to find out how we can reach more masses. Social media is always a great platform to get out to the masses as well. I know a lot of school committee members currently use social media a lot to get their message across and to reach out to as many constituents as possible to make sure that their voices are being heard. And I know firsthand, they've been doing a pretty good job, because I know they came in with a lot of food issues over the last couple of school committee meetings. So that message is getting out there. So building off of what we currently have, but also letting them know that school committee meetings are public, that anybody can attend, and encouraging people.
I'm on mute. I was talking to myself. Thank you, Daniel, for your response. We are moving on to question number 3. Tiffany will start this one off.
Donna didn't get to go.
Did you forget me?
Sorry, Donna. I have these moments. It happens.
That's all right. I can relate to that. No problem. First, I'm going to speak on the part that I think is the situation with the buildings being replaced, being updated. It does come down to money. I got very involved in my kids' schools in PTA. My oldest daughter was in elementary school when a group of teachers got me involved in trying to get a new classical built. And I'll tell you how long that took. My 3 oldest kids graduated from the old classical. Now, mind you, that oldest daughter was in elementary. 3 kids graduated from classical, and my youngest one is the only one that graduated from the new classical. So it does take a long time. Unfortunately, it comes to money. It comes to cooperation from the city council, cooperation from the mayors also. You know, as we change mayors, some mayors go in a different direction. But, you know, I have seen the purchase of the annex for Lynn Tech in that time. I saw an addition go on to Lynn English. I saw the new Thurgood Marshall built. So, you know, there has been stuff that's been done. As far as parents being involved, I don't want to blame Ed Reform, but when Ed Reform came in, when my kids were in school, there was every month was a meeting in a PTO or a PTA, depending on what schools my kids were in. Every month, parents could go to that meetings. Principals were there, the teachers were there, and other parents, and we talked about the issues. And when Ed Reform came in, they changed it. Whatever group was the most involved, it was a PTO in the school, our PTA, or a boosters or the band parents, those people then sat on the school councils, which we have right now. And I think that kind of limited the interest of some, not limit the interest, but limit the availability to some of the parents.
All right. Thank you, Donna, for that response. Sorry once again that I almost skipped you over. I just had a brain fart moment. And we are on to question number 3. Tiffany will be starting off this question. All right. Would you be in favor of combining schools such as they recently voted to do for elementary in Swampscott, or would you prefer keeping smaller separate schools?
Thank you for the question. So I think that in Lynn, we tend to think of schools as kind of one thing, when really we're talking about elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, all in different categories. If you take 2 very small schools that are very old, like Brickett and Aborn, each of which only have a couple hundred kids, when you think about combining them because of how close they are proximity-wise to one another and how small those schools are, it might make sense to do something like that, right? My daughter happens to go to Sisson. If you were talking about Sisson, Shoemaker, and Lynn Woods, which are geographically really spread out from one another, Sisson's almost 500 kids by itself. It doesn't make sense to combine 3 elementary schools in Ward 1 like that, to have a Ward 1 elementary school, because it would be enormous by the time you got there, and you'd have to deal with a lot of busing issues. So I think that rather than saying, oh, Swampscott did this, let's look at Swampscott, we have to take Lynn for what Lynn is and look at the neighborhoods in which these schools reside, how old each of the buildings are, and where it might make sense to combine them. And I think that being really specific about this and not thinking that we are another community, or even that each individual school is like another individual school, we have to look at the geographical boundaries, where there is likely to be development in the city, like where that land is going to have more people living on it. Because let's be honest, in Ward 1, that there's not going to be an explosion of people like there might be in some other wards. And being deliberative to, as we lobby the MSBA when we build a school, to say we need to build it to a larger capacity than it might be otherwise, which is what they did with the Marshall Middle School. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra, you are next. You're on mute. Unmute yourself.
Sorry.
There you go.
I'll forget. I'm muted because I'm sneezing. So in my case, I'm not approved to combine the school. Even for the explanation Magnolia already did. But in my point of view, when we see the combination of of those schools because they have a less key and then combining in one. We're gonna make like indirectly like an overcrowded too. So seeing that, I prefer to have a smaller school and like Magnolia said, we need to see geographically where is the most where is the most citywide people, and then making a good decision about where to do a school that can be like work for everybody in that area, and then avoid to combine the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra, for your response.
Yeah.
Eric, you are up next.
Okay, well, thank you for the question. Just to put it bluntly, Lynn needs new schools, so we need to be open-minded about the decisions we make. I know ideally we would like to keep our neighborhood schools, and ideally that is, as you know, that's what people want to do, but we need new schools, so we need to be open-minded as to how we approach that. I think that if we get new schools and children are seeing the benefits of that, we're definitely going to be in a better place. Schools are the backbone of a community, and they're going to keep people in our community. They're going to keep young families in our community. They're going to keep, people here that maybe otherwise would leave because the schools are the way they are. So my answer to that would be, we just need to keep an open mind, and we need to make sure that when we're approaching the new buildings, that we are doing that, and we're open to all ideas, whether they come from a parent, whether they come from the superintendent, the mayor, wherever those ideas are coming from. We just need to be flexible with our thinking and keep an open mind to how we go about getting these schools, because the most important issue is that the schools come. So I think that's how I would answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you. And up next is Lenny.
Yes, that's a good question. Me personally, I would be open to having several elementary schools and a middle school to do whatever works for our kids, in our neighborhoods. We were just speaking about getting feedback from constituents. That's another thing. We need to reach out to the communities to see what works, get feedback from our constituents. Talk to the teachers, communicate with the teachers union. We need to try to it's just a second where, on what Eric was touching and elaborating, we need to do what works for those neighborhoods, but to address the overcrowding issues, we definitely need middle schools and elementary schools. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. And next we will go to Pastor Poussin.
Yes, we desperately need new school, and ideally we can have a school within our own comfort zone. We can walk there, we can cut down the travel time. Yeah, but our current budget, our current resource need us to, to live with reality, and so we desperately need new school. I think the easy part is that we want new school that is high tech, that is advanced, but then which location would we want to have it? And we'll fight over because of the traffic flow and all of that. So I think I would spur on all of us to be open-minded to have new school and to face reality, and then to get our constituent input, whether come up with solid idea of what the school will be, or location, and then vote on it so that we can move forward swiftly and live with our reality. Yes.
All right. Thank you for your response. And Brian is up next.
Thank you. So I actually, if we're going to be growing in demographic, we need to plan ahead. It's definitely a big question. I think it's very important to kind of keep an open mind when it comes to just the planning process. including what that RFP would look like. When you look at Swampscott and how they did it, they were, they had community input. They worked, there was a long process. It was a very collaborative process. And we're looking to be efficient. This question is interesting because I don't know why, but I got, for some reason, when I'm thinking about combining schools, some reason I thought about pre-K, increasing enrollment for pre-K, because we do need more pre-K in the city. So I don't know why I thought about that, because I really do. You got to think outside the box when it comes to these type of capital plans. It requires a dynamic of the community, your stakeholders out in the neighborhoods, the superintendent, the city, the mayor. It's a melting pot. And what's important is too, I think we did, I think folks already echoed, is the communication. We need to have buy-in. Everyone is a steward of it, being an ambassador to any kind of school that comes in. And that's definitely very important. So when we want to, build that capacity to lobby with MSBA and work it out, we don't want to just keep a dream. We want to bring things to fruition. So breaking down those processes are very important, and being transparent.
All right. Thank you, Brian, for your response. Daniel, you are next.
Thank you, everyone. So what I would look at similar is I'd be looking at different things as far when it comes to schools. I'd be looking at, is there a way that we could combine schools? Because if we take a look at a lot of our buildings, a lot of them are over 100 years old. And if we continue to repair them and restore them, all we're doing is we're really just putting a Band-Aid on the situation. And what we're doing is we're just keep kicking the can down the road. At some point, these schools are going to have to be replaced. They're going to have to be torn down, and there's going to have to be new schools put up. So what I'd like to see happening now, similar to what Brian was saying, where there's money coming into the city, where there's more funding coming in, now would be the time to start the process of really working with local and federal state delegations, working with constituents to find out what they really want to see and see if we can come to some common ground when it comes to building new schools. Because once again, combining new schools would definitely be a good thing in a lot of circumstances. Sometimes it may not make the best sense right now, but at the end of the day, when we're looking 20, 30 years down the line, now you're looking at schools that are 130, 150 years old. How much longer are we going to continue to restore and repair these schools? At some point, we're going to have to tear them down and rebuild new schools somewhere. So why not start that process now with building newer schools and really seeing what we can do with land that is no longer needed for the school department and giving it back to the city to do something else with. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And next we have Donna.
I think this is a difficult question. Number one, we're land poor, so we'd have to think of where are we thinking about doing that. But we'd also, it's always been a big thing in Lynn that our schools were neighborhood schools. Kids could walk to them. We didn't have to worry about as many buses. Most of our buses that we have are really buses that transport our special ed students. So if you're talking about moving schools to other places, you're going to have to, it's going to be a permanent cost in our budget for busing. And just what we went through with buses, not having enough bus drivers, you're going to have to look ahead. Is that going to be a continuing problem in the future, that people are looking towards other jobs and we're not going to have the bus drivers that we need or want? But one of my concerns is, like Tiffany mentioned, Sisson had 500, I'm not so sure if it was the administration, but definitely the mayor that we have now was talking about, where we have a problem with Avon School. Maybe Avon could be put over with Ingalls, but, in my heart, Ingalls already has 750 schools. So what is the size of the schools do you want? I think that's going to have to be the most important. Not like, okay, there's some land over there at Ingalls, so we'll put the Avon School over there. And what? make it make 1,000 student school over there, add on to Ingalls, 750, bring 250 over. What's a true reasonable side? I don't have a problem with combining schools, but it has to be well thought out and really sold to the parents that's their schools.
Thank you for that response. Lorraine, you are next.
Well, first of all, the Mass School Building Association, whenever we're going into or looking into new schools, they're going to make recommendations. They're going to look at the population in that school district or that school area, and they're going to say, the population is booming, so we need a school this size. So they, a lot of times, dictate whether or not it should be a combined schools and the amounts in that school. We need to talk to the community. We need to go out and talk to the community and say, this is what the recommendation is. How do you feel about it? Have great communications. What can we do to get what the needs are for our students? I know there are a lot of really small schools. I know that the Tracy Elementary School is in dire need to get built. I've had many, many conversations with John Ford on this because he's the chairperson of Buildings and Grounds, and I'm on that committee. And we've talked about the possibility of Druitt's being combined with Tracy down by Market Basket. So, until the MSBA comes forward and tells us what we have for land space, the amount, then we make that decision. But we need to make that decision with the help of the community. Other ideas, do we want to make it pre-K through, kindergarten to 8? Do we want to make a K through 8 school? So there's a lot of things that can be up for discussion when we talk about combining schools. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. And we are moving along. We are going to our next question. And Sandra, you will be leading off with this one. This might be the question of the night. So have your thinking caps on for this one. There is currently a petition circulating about the quality and freshness of school lunches. No one expects a school cafeteria to have Michelin star, but what role can the school committee play in ensuring healthy, fresh, and adequate nutrition for school lunch?
Okay, about that, I could say the school committee should be seeing what type of food is healthy for the kids and who can provide that. So right now, I was seeing Michael Saraway article. He posted recently that he was visiting the school and he wasn't able to eat because the type of food it was serving at the school, it wasn't like a good choice for the kids. So that made me to think that we need to have it like a meeting, check it out, what we can offer it to the kids to be eating in the school, that preventing that we can waste the food. Because if we see in that way, every day it's a ton of food be trashed because the kid didn't have a quality food serving at the school. I see some picture of the serving food over there, and then it wasn't really pretty to see it. And then if it's not really pretty to see it, it's not really pretty to eat either way. So one of the plans that I could do it for that is to searching with the vendors and make a plan to serving healthy food and use more vegetables and stuff that they can give it a nice sources of food for the kids and preventing that food go to the trash. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Eric, you are up next.
Okay, thank you for the question. So I think like many of us, I've been following this on social media. It's been on the news a little bit as well. So I have been following this. And I think, nutrition of our children is really important. Nutrition and educational needs, it's important. If our food that we're putting in our bodies working properly, it's going to make our brains work better. We're going to be less tired. There'll be less sugar slide, I guess, for lack of a better term. I think all those things go hand in hand with education. So it is really important that our kids are getting nutritious meals. I think in terms of what the school committee can do is look at what the vendor is doing. The parents have brought this forward now. I think, like I said earlier in my last question, there's been an open mic at the school committee meetings. There's this petition going around. So the parents and brought this forward to the public. And they've been loud and clear and telling us what they want. So I think as a school committee, if I'm to get on and if, the 3 new seats are filled, this is going to be probably front and center because the election's next week. And so I think we just need to look at these vendors. We need to look at Revolution Food, I believe it's called, or Chartwell's, I believe, and just, hold their feet to the fire, make sure that they're providing our students what we need from them, and make sure that the food's being prepared in a way that meets the nutritional standards for our students. Because ultimately this is something students deserve. They do deserve nutritional meals. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lenny. You are up next.
Yes, that is a good question. I know nutrition is very important. It's vital for our students, and it's, of course, it's something that as a school committee, we need to, of course, we got to review it, and it's a huge concern. And, there's a lot of ideas, there's several ideas out there. I remember when this was starting up, I was talking to Sophia and a few others, and there's a lot of ideas out there, and it's, but we got to work together with this because when we work together, we all win. Just to touch on, Michael Satterwhite, he, current school committee, he visited different schools today, and I personally thought they were pretty good, but, that's just my opinion. That's why we all got to work together. We got to get different input on this because it's important, and if there's a lot of concerns, there's a lot of ideas. When I was a kid, when I went to school, we had hot meals. Maybe we need to staff our cafeteria more. I hear other things where there's other concern where kids wait almost their whole lunch period just to get their lunch, and then they gotta rush back to class. So we definitely need a staff, try to advocate to get more staffing with the cafeteria work, and there's a lot of ideas out there. But when we work together, we win. Everyone wins. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Poussin, you are next.
Yes, thank you for this question. I believe that nutrition and education are paramount for our future, who are our children. And I'm so thankful that Sophia, along with the other parents, has taken this up to put it on the radar screen so that we can come back at it and re-examine it and really think about it. As I took the time to go before the school committee, before our mayor, before Dr. Tutwala, with the parent about a month ago, I really meant it that we should be serving our children not only safe and healthy, but delicious food, because we need to motivate them to eat that food because they really need the food in their bodies in order to learn. And for some of these families that we are serving, this is the best opportunity for them to get these nutrition. And so I'm glad to hear a story about when we were younger, we used to have hot meal, we used to have sloppy joe, we used to have oatmeal. And so I think this is time to look at this again and come up with innovative way where we can deliver delicious, safe, and healthy meal.
Thank you for your response. Brian, you are up next.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've been working with the many families and parents, folks are involved with this particular issue. Since day one, I've been hitting the ground running. I've been making sure that our superintendent is working collaboratively with Kevin McHugh and our food service operation director. They are, they're looking at, right now through a sharp lens, a critical lens, because nutrition is important. I come from a personal experience of having a food insecurity. I know what it's like to feel that type of hunger. Maria Vega was a parent that spoke about a few weeks ago, and she talked about, that might be the only meal that these kids get, and that hit my soul. And like, that's something that meant, a lot to me, because if, we get these sources of information, you have to act. You have to take this seriously. Like any other critique in your life, we need to improve our systems. And if that means that we need to go over Revolution Foods and the folks that are servicing our district, we have to be critical of all of them. We're not just, quality is important too, because food waste is an issue. And also thinking outside the box to maybe seeing what we could do to reimagine, maybe putting more kitchens, maybe some of those elementary schools, maybe we can apply for grants. Maybe we can look outside the box to develop an alternative. But we need to do it now. See, I really don't want to wait. We don't need to wait. We have the funds. We need to do it now and look into this. So thank you.
Thank you. Daniel, you are next.
Thank you. So kind of what I would look at is, one, I would start taking a look at Revolutions and kind of start taking a look at their process and what they're doing and how they're preparing their food, but also how they're getting the food to us. I think that's going to be very important. I know the school committee right now, they have taken this issue very seriously. It's been at the forefront and it's been at school committee meetings over the last couple of meetings. So I know it's very important. And the school committee and Dr. Tutwiler are taking this issue very seriously. But also, too, taking a look at other options, taking a look at other foods that may not spoil as quickly and as easily, that are very nutritious for kids. Those are very good options. But also, too, looking at ways to maybe be a little more self-sufficient, as Brian was saying, maybe putting in a few more kitchens into the elementary schools or the middle schools to help kind of ease that flow of food that's coming in from Revolutions. Because you got to remember, Revolutions is delivering thousands and thousands and thousands of meals every single day. So that's very hard to replace, but it can be done if you have a process put in place over a period of time. You can become more self-sufficient with the money. And if there is space available, because once again, schools are definitely overcrowded. So it's one thing to keep in mind, but there is ways to kind of make food and make our process be a little bit more self-sufficient, but also have more healthier options that may not spoil as quickly as some of the options that we currently have now.
But thank you, Brian. Thank you, Daniel, for your response. Donna, you are next.
Definitely. All the years I've been on the school committee, the food issue comes up. Then we work on it, and it seems to tone down. I know when I first came on the committee, I was on for a while, and the vendor that we had was giving just small containers of juice every day. That was supposed to be the fruit for a child, which we all know it's better to eat an apple, a banana, an orange, some other kind of fruit that has that would be better to have than to be having a cup of juice every day in place of that, But this is a new vendor, and if this vendor doesn't work, then it may be something that we have to put out to bid again. And because we get all of our money free, we have free breakfast, free lunch, and that all comes from the federal government. And we spend millions, believe me. If you saw how much we spend on food and paying these vendors, we want better, and we want the kids to be satisfied. So I think that what we have to do is, if the vendor doesn't work out, we'll have to put it back out to bid in an RFP. But I'm hoping that this vendor can work out. He can understand what our people are looking for and what the kids really want to eat, and we can all work it out. And yes, we are going to meet as school committee. It's going to be open to the public, so that parents can come in to have an interest in that.
Great. Thank you, Donna, for your response. Lorraine, you are up next.
Well, one thing we all have to remember here is that we have to follow the federal guidelines for foods. And sometimes, as Donna has said before, that sometimes federal guidelines food doesn't taste like the food that you get at home. I have been to a school, I had lunch today. I can see where parents may be a little concerned. My thing I would be looking into when I talk to the company on November 3rd, one of my questions may be, how are you processing the food? To me, it's a little bit too salty. So federal guidelines, we're going to come together. Everybody's going to come together. And we're going to discuss, like how the food looks, how it was presented, what they're using for processing to keep it so that it has a good shelf life. Sorry. When I got the phone call on a Friday, I believe, from Sophia, she was really, really, really upset. I could understand why she was upset when she explained what she found. I told her I will be looking into it. And I called up on Monday because it was late on Friday. We called, we're looking into it. We're going to have this community meeting on November 3rd. It's open to the public. We're going to talk to the food provider, and we're going to come up with some good food for our students to eat healthy and safe. I promise that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tiffany, you are up next.
Thank you. So I feel the struggle because I have the school menus come home. I have a kid who goes to school who picks what she'd like. And I just want to say, from my perspective, this is really a vendor issue. And what I mean by that is, prior to the pandemic, it was a very different, Chartwells was a very different vendor than this Revolution Foods. And what I mean by that is, when my daughter would bring home the menu, she would take school lunch 2, 3, 4 times a week, most of the time. Now it's maybe twice a month. There's a lot of things about the hot lunch and the cold lunch option that comes in that's not what I would call kid food friendly. So, I don't know a lot of kids who want pineapple rice, for instance, just not things that I've seen kids really kind of get excited about. So the first thing I want to say is the vendor is something that the school committee has some control over. One of the things the school committee doesn't have control over is how much space is available in the buildings to build kitchens. Sisson, where my daughter goes, doesn't even have a library. They have these like wheelie carts with books on them that get stored in a closet. Like, even if you wanted to put a kitchen there, you couldn't. We're talking about millions of dollars to build additions onto really old buildings that we all just agreed need to be replaced anyways. So it seems to me like we need to put our efforts where we can right now, and that is with the vendor, and to make sure that the options for the kids, number one, line up with the menus. Number two, that there is enough food, because often when it's a popular item, they run out of food. And number three, that what we're serving to children is actually what they want to eat, because even if it's your only meal of the day, if you think it's gross, you're not going to eat it. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are on to our next question, which is a community question. Eric, you will be leading this one off. The question comes from Sylvia Odiana. I hope I pronounced her last name correctly. What is your plan to diversify staff and teachers? What is your plan to better include diverse parents and or parents with limited English so they are staying informed in a way that works for them?
Okay, so I guess there's two questions there. The first is diversify the staff, and the second would be to include families. So first of all, with the staff, that's not something that's going to happen overnight. There is a teacher shortage across the country right now. But in terms of Lynn, what we can do is create a pipeline from the Lynn public. Well, first of all, encourage children to get into education. Education is I'm a teacher. It's something I'm passionate about. I feel that you can make a career of it. It's a great livelihood from it. And we need to encourage children to get involved in that and take that route. And we can do that by creating pipelines to the local colleges, North Shore Community College, Salem State, Endicott, etc. And then encourage them obviously to come back to Lynn and serve the community where they're from. So that's the first part of it, to diversify our staff. And then the second part I believe I heard was how to include families, diverse families. I think communication is critical in schools. Families need to know what's going on. They need to know what their children are up to. They need to know what the schools are up to. So, creating things in different languages is really important. I know we have parent liaisons now in our buildings that I think, so far it seems like that seems to be working well. And encourage more of that. So, just making sure that we're communicating in as many languages as we possibly can, make sure that we're using technology where we can, updating the website as well. The Lynn Public Schools website is a bit challenging to navigate, so updating that website. And I think if we combine all of those things, again, this is not an overnight fix, but this is definitely something we can start, chipping away at and getting improvements in. So thank you.
Thank you. Lenny, you are up next.
I was muted. Can you repeat the question, Mukala, please?
Oh, yeah. The question is, what is your plan to diversify staff and teachers? What is your plan to better include diverse parents and or parents with limited English so they are staying informed in a way that works for them? Two-part question.
Well, one of the things that I would do is probably try to create a pipeline with other colleges, to especially I heard the other night, there's a lot of historic Black colleges that have students graduating, and maybe offer them an incentive and maybe work with legislate with the local council, maybe give them some kind of tax break or something to come over to, leave another state to come over to Massachusetts. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of, guys, from other states that would love to come and visit Boston. One of the plans I have this is why I'm running. We have a very diverse population. We have a big growing Latino population, and communication. Communication is very important. There's 65 languages spoken in Lynn. And one of the things I would do is probably try to get more communication in different languages, advocate for that. But those are one of the reasons why I'm running. That's what I would do to try to diversify our population. We have to reach out to students, and create a pipeline, where we can educate them, maybe help them, to get to offer them incentives and include families and parents. Have communication is very important. I remember how hard it was, for myself trying to navigate through this, with the school system, dealing with things, and it's very important to include other languages. I know we have a lot of I know the school department hire a lot of paraprofessionals, bilingual, and it's very important. And I like to keep on that and working with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Poussin, you are next.
Thank you. I think I'm not sure that is the most pressing and important question for us, for our children. But to answer that question, I guess vote for me would be the first Asian American to serve on the school committee. And I will have the eyeballs to look out for more, representative among the Asian, or for Lenny among the African American, or for Brian, among the Latino. Yeah. So yeah, maybe we can start with right now. I'm stepping up. Let's vote for that. But I think the more important question is, what are we doing with our public school? We're trying to serve our students, our children, so that they have a strong future. And so I think the strong future would be preparing them for what's coming. And, we can't even afford to hire a teacher who are much more skilled and able to take advantage of our technical programs, so that we can train and recruit more students who can be prepared for these technical jobs, whether it's plumbing, electrician, that are high paying. So I think we should be promoting teacher who will come and provide the technological education that can prepare these students for those kind of field. We can gamify the technological lesson as well for the lower grade, for the elementary. Yeah, so I think that's I would press for that, more of those kind of focus for our children's future.
Thank you for that response. Brian, you are next.
Thank you. So representation matters. I've been working on this issue, tackling this issue for the last 4 years, working with Latinos for Education, other nonprofits, including the district, on trying to retain diversity. The superintendent, we have initiatives that we set every year, and this is always on the top focus of his goals. He's working with the teachers union and folks, looking to see what we can do to offer and improve a compensation package. I did recently, as we're looking to address retention, a linguistic incentive. I think it's very important to reward our staff who do speak other languages. You see this is common in other unions and districts and organizations to offer those type of compensations. Also, we do have a fellowship program through Salem State University that is actually building a sustainable pipeline of staff with these backgrounds. So that goes back to just, I think Mr. Pena mentioned that earlier, because we have that pilot program, which is awesome. And I think my last 2 terms, we've been really trying to address these needs. And I strongly support, that question. Also, just the second part of that is the Parent Information Center. We have many updates that went there. We have made a heavy investment because family engagement is vital, and also improving and providing access to equitable language channels and just communicating with our constituents consistently and thoroughly, and making sure that folks feel like they are valued. We need to be improving our outreach, and we need to work on how we do that. It's daily. It's the hiring. It's the parents. It's the family coordinators that you meet. And also just having the technology to match that too, because I know we have certain softwares that allow us to communicate in different dialects and languages. Because Lynn is a melting pot, and we do need to cherish that. So.
All right, thank you, Brian, for your response. Daniel, you are next.
Thank you. So I believe that a lot of this issue has to do with really what the teachers go through in the environment that's created. If we have a great teachers union with a lot of teachers that are happy with the pay, happy with the benefits, it's going to attract a lot of talent, and it's going to attract talent from diversity as well. Creating different avenues when it comes to colleges is going to be another one to draw talent from. But also, too, following kids that graduate school, that are going to college, that are going and looking to be teachers is going to be very important. Once again, if the environment is right and the teachers are treated well and respected and they're making good money, they're going to want to come back to the city that they grew up in, that they went through the system with, and want to be a teacher here. So that's going to be very important. When it comes to language and when it comes to keeping parents involved, having literature that's in many different languages, once again, over 65 different languages spoken, but also, too, thinking outside the box and how to communicate with these people. It won't just be in the traditional way of let's send this notice home with the child and hopefully the child shows their parent, because most of the time that doesn't happen. You have to go to the people. You have to go to where they are, setting up community meetings, maybe going to churches, setting up meetings with different PTOs and PTAs that have a group of people that may not be well informed, and really getting into conversations with them and making them feel involved is going to be very important. I feel that bringing the communication to the community is very vital, especially when you have a diverse group with many different languages being spoken.
All right. Thank you, Daniel, for your response. Donna, you are up next.
This has been a long time discussion and a struggle for us in hiring in regards to teachers in particular of minority. But I know this committee in particular that I serve with now, we really, really made an effort to have a lot of management people hired. In particular, our superintendent is African American. We hired a new special ed director that's a minority. The Welcoming Center has a new lady who's Hispanic. We had 5 principals that were hired over the summer. 4 of them are minority. 1 of them speaks 7 languages. And like Lenny mentioned, the parent liaisons, it's all of them. One of the requirements was that they speak another language, read and write it, preferably Spanish, because that's a bulk of what our students are. So we know it's really important that, with hiring teachers, the problem can be, though, we need to make sure that they are certified and licensed. So if we don't have people going into that, it should be our job in the Lynn School Department to follow our students that have an interest in that and make sure that they don't go and work someplace else, get plucked by another community. As far as including families, I hope that we go back to the thing where families feel welcome in our schools. There's no reason why they shouldn't. And there should be monthly meetings for parents, not mandatory meetings, but meetings that they really want to come to and enjoy themselves coming. I went to those meetings all the time and I enjoyed it. There was always some good information came from principals, or they talked about what was coming up, whether it was plays, sports that the kids could participate in. So if you come to the monthly meetings, you hear more that's happening in your child's school. And you'll become more involved because somebody will reach out to you and say, we need some help at such and such, whether it's a book fair or just a field trip or whatever. So I hope that we get back to that stage.
All right. Thank you, Donna, for that. Lorraine, you are next.
We have worked very hard on this issue over the past 4 years. We've been invested in it with Dr. Tutwiler. Those are his goals, actually, increasing diverse staff. One of the things that really bothered me, and I brought it up to Dr. Tutwiler, I think in July or June, about my former students. There are 2 of them that I can think of right now that are not teaching in Lynn. They graduated from college and they came back to Lynn, but they're in the charter school. And I'm like, why not Lynn Public Schools? What are you doing to me? Because I just love these students. And the offer was better to go there than it is here. So I'd like to see that improve. And I mentioned that to Dr. Tutwiler, and he promised me we will get those students here. So now we have what they have is called like an early college fellowship. Students go there and they promise that they will come back here and teach. I mean, I get to see a lot of people coming back to our city in different roles. The last thing I want to mention about families is when I finally got my shot and I was able to get back out in the community, I went to a church at Old St. Mike's, and I was talking to some parents, and they would like Spanish parents, and they would like to be able to learn English. So I was just thinking outside the box to see if the Tech Night program could teach Spanish parents English. They have a program that teaches English people Spanish, but I would like it to be the opposite because that's what they requested, and I'm going to request that of Michelle Guzman when I see her. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine, for that response. Tiffany, you are next.
Thank you. Well, I think I'm going to reiterate something that a number of people have said, which is that if we want to diversify our staff and teachers, we have to look inside, not outside. I think that the combination of a career ladder for our paras, because we know the most diverse folks are our staff members, to ensure whether it's specifically in the union contract, or we're looking at how the district incentivizes career ladder movement, whether that be reimbursement for further education or whether that be, a step plan. I haven't looked at the contract to be able to talk about that specifically because I'm not on the school committee yet. But when it comes to a program for early college that specifically addresses our need for teachers, I know that we found at North Shore Community College, mentorship is the key to success. So I would love to see teachers of color specifically serve as mentors for students who are moving through this pipeline, because one of the greatest incentives for returning is knowing that you'll know your colleague, that you'll be able to impress the teacher that impressed you. When it comes to communication, I think we really have to take seriously how poor our website is. And what I mean by that is that people use mobile technology as their go-to translation software. And if you have a website that's not mobile friendly and cannot interface with that translation software, you've effectively stopped communication by the mechanism that most people use. So I would definitely pay a lot of attention about how our electronic facing information works on the technology that people are accessing it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sandra, you are next.
Okay, I will start saying that I'm gonna be working to create a platform that could invite the professional to come back to Lynn and have a good retirement plans and benefit, because the problem that we face is in the actually time is that they don't have a good pay, I understand, and they don't have a good environment to stay in the city doing the job and then go to another city to do that. So it means to me that we need to work first to have a good payment for them, a good benefit, and a good incentive. That way we can call their attention and have they work back. And then the other thing that I would like to encourage is the retirement military to be teach at school. And then for the parents, I would like to have to be in touch with parents that actually talking bilingual, but they don't know how to be in touch with the school to be part of the programs and teach Spanish or either English. Because I know a couple of people, a couple of parents that they speak Spanish, but the kids speak English and they don't have a good communication with them, and they need to be using the translator to be communicated with the old children, and then that's a problem that we faces. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for those responses. All right, we have come to our last question of the evening. Oh, everyone has done a great job tonight. So, Lenny, you will start off this last question. So, putting aside any established school rankings and standardized test scores for a moment, how well do you think Lynn Public School is helping our students succeed? And also, if you need me to repeat the question, also feel free to ask.
Yeah, can you repeat the question? Me, myself here, and you.
All right. Putting aside any established school rankings and standardized test scores for a moment, how well do you think Lynn Public Schools is helping our students succeed?
Thank you. That's a good question. I believe that the school committee now in the Lynn Public Schools is heading in a good direction. I believe with the hiring of new staff and even, coming off a year that we had with COVID and, trying to get people vaccinated, I think we're doing an exceptionally good job. With the hiring of more therapists and paraprofessionals, I believe we're heading into a better direction, especially bilingual paraprofessionals. And like Lorraine mentioned, with the empowering information, having a bilingual person being hired, I think we're starting to move in a good direction where there's more communication, and I like to see more input from families, like, more frequent meetings with the school committee to see the needs of people and to try to address them. I know that social and emotional learning is something big, especially coming off a year that we had with COVID. And I know with adding more therapists and we're heading into a good direction. I'd like to see us keep heading in that direction, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Poussin, you are next.
Yes, I definitely want to thank the Lynn Public School for all our effort to serve our students. And but I think that we are about to face a big wake-up call of not how well we succeed in helping our students to have a strong future graduation rate, but we're not helping them for the oncoming innovation economy, the technological revolution. Are we preparing our students to be interested in those fields? Do we have curriculum that expose them to those different fields? Do we help them to know what computer programming is? Computer language is a different language. So can they learn the foundation at an earliest age so that they can be acculturated to it, and so it pique their interest and prepare them for those fields that are coming? Before we used to do the horse and wagon, now we have the tractor, but soon the tractor is driving itself. And what are we preparing our students for? So yeah, I want to thank our public school faculty, teacher. I want to thank Dr. Coppola for just working hard to make sure our students are safe and they have learning environment. But we have to think about, the economy that they'll be graduating into. Have they have enough opportunity to be interested in those fields that are opening up for them?
All right. Thank you. Brian, you are next.
So there's a number of ways I could answer this question, but I want to just highlight just how remarkable and inspired I was during the pandemic when I saw a lot of the leadership, a lot of teachers, the Lynn community, folks stepped up. This is an urban district with many inequities. We could talk about our L's, our lower socioeconomic students with disabilities. We do operate from a lens of equity. We had just passed the SOA funding, and I look forward to working with the district on addressing the challenges that we see. I did write a resolution to get rid of MCAS. I don't really like MCAS. I hope that folks coming into this. Yeah, I hope if I get reelected, I hope I can have some people with me lobbying the commissioner's district on trying to get rid of that, because I'm not a fan. And I actually wrote up a resolution back in November to suspend MCAS when they were trying to hold us accountable, an urban district with many different other challenges ahead of us. I definitely see this district moving in the right direction. Dr. Tutwiler, his team, but our staff really are resilient. And the folks at the table, my committee that I said with did take, we did take a critical time to evaluate, and we're moving, we're fighting. So everyone here, I look forward to hearing from all you guys and seeing everything you guys can bring to the table, because it takes a village. We're in a big transition. This is a big transition. So we're all, hey, this is the group that competes with everybody else. So I look forward to it. Thank you, Donna. I see you I know you want to get going. I see that little. Hey, I seen that. Bro,
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian, for your response. Daniel, you are next.
Thank you. So what I would say is I'm a very positive, optimistic person. If you take a look at the last year, but over the years, you take a look at what Lynn Public Schools has done and where they come from, the Student Opportunity Act and all of COVID, and how the school department, the teachers, the students, the parents were able to pivot and see these kids still succeed. Now, was it challenging for a lot of parents and students? Absolutely. Is it ever going to be perfect? No. But what we can do is continue to strive and move forward and continue to make improvements. There are a lot of great things that Lynn Public Schools has done over the recent couple of years. from hiring diverse teachers, principals, paraprofessionals, Dr. Tutwiler, who's our superintendent. So we've done a pretty good job on that front. But there are room for improvement. There always will be. But I feel that you got to stay optimistic. You got to stay positive and understand that, once again, it takes a whole village to raise kids. It takes a whole village to teach these kids. And I think the administrators, I think the teachers, the parents do an excellent job trying to help our kids as much as we can with the resources that we have. Because once again, we don't have as many resources as other communities, but what we do have is we have a very tight-knit group of a community that can really help these kids out. And you really seen it happen during COVID, which was very awesome to see. And it's very great to see happen in this wonderful city.
Thank you, Daniel, for that response. Donna, you are next.
How many times did you have to hold the red card up for Brian? Oh, I believe it. Okay, B. That's a loaded question, really, to be honest with you. I think that we do a good job under the circumstances. And like Brian says, you know, we have kids that are really struggling with a lot of stuff. But I think that we're giving the teachers, we're constantly tweaking the curriculum, trying to make it work in a better way for all the kids. Last summer, not this one, recent one, but last summer, we did 2 weeks of professional development and prepared our teachers for the remote, you know, switching off to hybrid and in person. That's a lot to ask for, a lot of change, not just for the staff, but also for the kids themselves. I think we're not doing a great job when it comes to technology. We were behind, but when we had the opportunity, we did purchase 17,000 of the laptops so that every one of our children had it. Partly, too, we've expanded on a lot of things. Lynn Tech, we've added on a lot of trades. We've added on the early college program. We've added on chances for kids in 8th grade to go to Lynn Tech and try that out. We've offered a lot. And I want to remind everybody that we have kids graduating every year that are accepted to Harvard, to Yale, to the military academies. You got to apply and they're accepted. You know, our dropout rate, you know, I agree is not where the state is, but I want you to understand something. When we have like a young man or a gal that's a new immigrant and the time comes when they can get a job, they drop out because of that. And then all of a sudden in September, maybe they got a job landscaping in the spring, but in September they come back. They want that education. And then if they do it again the following spring dropout, the DESE people charge us for 2 dropouts. That's one child. Now, I mean, I know of one child that has done that 4 times to us, dropped out. So it looks like we had 4 dropouts when it's one student. They have to do it for certain reasons. Something should be fixed on that so that it doesn't go against the Lynn Public Schools for that. But I think, you know, we can always be working and getting things done better.
Thank you, Donna, for that. Lorraine, you are next.
This is an excellent question. It makes you really want to think. One thing I want everybody to remember is it's hard to judge because we're still in a pandemic. And our teachers and our students are sitting in classrooms with laptops that they never had before, but because of the pandemic, we were able to afford these laptops. We're trying to get the bandwidth so that we can actually use them and have them be beneficial so that teachers can get in their curriculum and teach. They're still waiting for a router to show up, and we're not sure. Maybe it's over there in California waiting in one of those shipments. That that's a possibility. Just waiting there to get over to Lynn, Massachusetts. But I went to the schools this week and last week and hearing about problems with bandwidth, teachers being inundated with new PLC programs that they don't have a lot of time to really just do their job, which is to teach. They want to teach their students. Whoops, we're in the yellow. So I'd really like the administration to start listening to teachers and step back a little bit so they can be more effective in their teaching. The other thing that I would like to see is I would like more ways to have after-school programs. And the reason why I think they're so important is so that they can support our students and help them build confidence. I find most of the students in Lynn that I taught, and even now, they just need confidence to be successful in their future. So that is how I think we're succeeding, but at a snail's pace compared to other communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Tiffany, you are next.
So this is an interesting question for somebody who teaches at a community college, because one of the things we get in trouble for all the time is that we don't graduate enough students. And I want to answer this question the way that I answer people who say that to me, which is, if the person who has started at the community college meets their own goal, then we have succeeded, regardless of whatever it is that we are being measured by some outside entity. And I think separate from MCAS, separate from anything else, I would say that Lynn both does and doesn't help students succeed. So it's a yes and no answer. And let me explain what I mean by that. I see graduates all the time who are at the community college to transfer to some amazing four-year schools. I also see graduates from the Lynn Public Schools who are there to get a cheap two-year education before they go off to a UMass, basically to save money and stay close to home. I also see students at the college who are at North Shore, not because they couldn't go somewhere else, but because they have family responsibilities. They have to work to help support the family while they are in college. And so they have to stay local in order to do that. So the answer to the question, how is the Lynn Public School helping these students, is that it is providing stability and a springboard for the students to go to wherever it is they want to be. So they're working towards their goals. When LPS is not helping students succeed, it is doing so because it cannot fix every single problem that society throws at it, right? If the only meal a student is getting is at school, how on earth can getting a high school degree fix that as their problem, right? This student needs to have a job. Are they going to necessarily progress in terms of their economic earning opportunity? Hopefully. But we've seen what's happened to the economy larger than just Lynn Public Schools over the last 10 years. And the people who have very little is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And how on earth can Lynn Public Schools fix that? It can do what it can. So my answer to the question is yes and no, because it is doing exceedingly well at what it is set up to do, but it cannot fix every single problem. And it's not fair to expect that it can. So use the adequate measure in order to look at what its true successes are. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra, you are next.
Okay. I will start saying that during this critical time with the COVID, with the vaccinations, with all the struggling they have with the budget, I think they do very well done because they supply the computer for the kid. They be looking that everything's go well with the internet and all of that. Of course, they have a couple of struggling using that, but that one is new for every single one. So in my overall, I believe they are doing a good job. All of them are giving a nice plan for the student, but we need to understand something. They don't make the decision alone. They depend on the state too. So, and we need to be think about it all the time about that. So all the responsibility is not only on the school committee, but and overall, like the question asked, if they doing well, yes, I believe they do.
Thank you, Sandra, for your response. And Eric, you are next.
Okay, thank you for the question. So I believe Lynn Public Schools are definitely trending in the right direction. I think the Student Opportunity Act has done just as we thought it would, has brought some opportunity to the schools, and I think that's really helped, and it's obviously made us trend in the proper direction. I think our teachers are great. All the teachers I've encountered in the Lynn Public Schools, have been wonderful, hardworking people that try their hardest to do what's right by their students. And I believe that, those two things together are really making us, as I said, trend in the right direction. I think some things that we still need to work on, like I said, having kids college and career ready, for their futures. Not every child is going to go off to college. Not every child is equipped for that. So are we doing what's right to put them on a path to succeed out of high school? Are we promoting trades? The trade businesses are exploding right now. They're looking for people. And Lynn historically has been a town or a city that has excelled in things like that. So I think we need to make sure we're giving kids an avenue to get into those fields so that their futures can be successful and that they can come back to Lynn or stay in Lynn and build a family and build a community that we want Lynn to be. The public schools are a backbone of our community, and it's really important that they're strong and that they're doing right by the students. So, like I said, I think we're trending in the right direction. Nothing is perfect, and there's definitely things we need to work on. But we're trending there and we're getting there. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you. And thank you all for your responses. This has been great. And we are now came to the part where everyone gives their closing statements. So once again, everyone has 2 minutes for their closing statements. And once again, you'll see the red and the yellow and the red when it's halfway through and when it's time to stop. So we will begin the closing statements with the pastor. You are first.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to come before our city. It's time for us to once again elect our school committee, and I have stepped up. I've worked hard to be one of your selection. And my focus is that our city is in trouble because we have overcrowded situation, we have dilapidated building, and on top of that, we have developments happening within the next 3 months. I think there will be more than 2,000 units that will be coming on the market. I've seen many new homes by Western Ave in front of GE. So they will bring more students and it create more overcrowdedness. And so we better build a new building quick. We cannot hope. We have to have new innovative way. We have to at least try to land on the moon, even if we fail, right? And so let's come together, all the Lynn voter, all the Lynn resident, the mayor, the next mayor, city council. Let's put our head together and champion a new Lynn public school building that is a advanced technological building, advanced technology school for our children. Lynn is a precious city. I love Lynn. Lynn is such a great launch platform for many people, and it should remain that way, and it should be loved, and we should build into a stronger city. And the quickest way to build into a stronger city is through increasing our Lynn Public School attractiveness. If we build a technology school together, we will attract more family, strong family into Lynn that will help build our local economy, that allow us to have a bigger tax revenue, that allow us to do greater things, build new building, our infrastructure, our street, take care of our senior housing, our affordable housing. So yes, please join me, elect me into part of the school committee, and I'll be a voice to promote technology school for Lynn.
Thank you. Brian, you are next.
So I just want to thank Lynn Community Television and Mukala, thank you for having us tonight. That's always an honor. I'm very humbled to be here tonight to share my perspectives and just answering all the great questions that you guys have provided to us tonight. It's good to get those community questions every time we get to go and do this. It's always it's a pleasure. First generation low income kid. I live a dream every day having this job and being able to serve the Lynn community has been something that I've been so grateful for. And I don't take a day for granted. I've been able to meet so many constituents and families across the city. I've been able to work with many different organizations and nonprofits around educational advocacy. I love education. For me, I have a passion for helping our most vulnerable students because I was one of those vulnerable students. So I come with lived experience. And I also, for the last 4 years, when we talk about just things that I felt like, need to be pointed out, is I've been fiscally responsible. Every year when we go through our budget, budget time is when you really see how your priorities get to the table. And I've made it my most honor to make sure that when I say I'm going to do something, I honor that. And I've done that. When I first ran for office, when we talked about social emotional learning, I saw the need and I wanted to resolve it. Forward 4 years later, now we have social workers in every school. We have a clinical infrastructure to support our most vulnerable students. We have trauma-informed professional development, K through 8. We have curriculum updates that really address and attack our most equity burdened kids. It's very important that that's known, and I'm grateful for everyone's time. Number one on the ballot. Give me a call at 781-346-2087. Please give me a call. You have any issues, any concerns, I don't mind working for you. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Donna, you are next.
Thank you, Lynn Community Television, for giving us this opportunity. We really appreciate it. And it did work out well on the Zoom for us. So that was a good thing, too. But I consider myself a strong advocate for students, family, and staff. I show up, I listen, I work every day to make Lynn Public Schools the best for every student. I'm not afraid to ask the hard questions at meetings and not afraid to take the hard votes either. I never regretted sending my 4 children and many of my 19 foster children to the Lynn Public Schools. I'm proud to have done that, and I'm proud to sit at the table and represent the community this last number of years. And I just ask for one of your votes. I'm number 2 on the ballot to send me back. It's going to be an exciting time with new school committee members and a new mayor at the table. So I appreciate if you could give me one of your votes. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Lorraine.
I didn't know what order you were going in. I first want to thank Lynn Community Television for inviting us here tonight so we could let you know who we are. Myself, I was born and raised in Lynn. I attended Lynn Public Schools. I had my son Michael, and my son Michael attended Lynn Public Schools. During my term on the school committee, I have been a very strong voice. I, along with Donna, am not afraid of making those tough decisions, and I'm not afraid of fighting for what I think is right and what the community thinks is right for their children. I have a little different background than my other colleagues because I spent 33 and a half years teaching in Lynn Public Schools. I was a biology and a science teacher. One of my highlights in all my classes is I try to build confidence and support in my students so when they go on to other classes, they can be successful. I think that is a sign of a successful teacher when people come back and say, thank you. It's because of you, I'm a lawyer, because no one else would trust in me, but I trusted in them, and they got the confidence from me. So for 33 and a half years, you have trusted me with your children. So I'm asking you to please trust me with one of your 6 votes on November 2nd. Number 3 on the ballot, lucky 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine, for that. Tiffany, you are next.
Thank you. And thank you to Lynn Community Television for hosting this forum. So I've mentioned a number of these things throughout my answers, but I come as a candidate for the school committee as a parent of a Lynn Public School student in elementary school. I'm also a professor at North Shore Community College and have been for 17 years. I also am a Girl Scout leader here in Lynn. Our troop started as tiny little kindergarten daisies, and now they're juniors and brownies. I also worked for a number of years as a citizen lobbyist with the Massachusetts Teachers Association, connecting K through 12 locals around Essex County with their elected officials. So I have a sense of how one works with a state delegation through my union activity. And I think that I can bring to the school committee the experience of all of these different types of avenues. I'm a very structural thinker. I'd like to think about how we can improve the function of the school committee by improving participation through the various groups. I would also ask folks to think about how the perspective of higher education helps us inform what it is that we do in the K through 12 areas so that students can be successfully educated and not just trained. Because we know when one career goes away, you have to get trained for a new career. And if you have a solid education, retraining is always easier. So on November 2nd, I would ask for one of your 6 votes. I'm number 4 on the ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sandra, you are next.
Thank you, Lynn Community Television, for hosting the forum. Thank you to invite me too and have this photo for us. So as I arrived this country, I'm be working very hard for this city. Most of the learners know me and they know that I'm be there to helping all of them and any need if I be at the school committee table. So I am asking you for one of your 6 votes on November the 2nd. And I am the number 8 on the ballot, and I come with you both. Remember, we all need to work together to get a good result in this election. So I encourage all of you to come out and go to vote and make your vote count. So go to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra, for that response. Eric, you are next.
Okay, well, thank you, Mukala. Thank you, LCTV, and Mukala, all the work you do with our high school student athletes too. Thank you for that. That's great. But my name's Eric Dugan. I'm running for school committee for a variety of reasons. First is I'm a parent of Lynn Public School children. My oldest son just graduated last spring. My youngest son's a junior at Classical. And so I have a vested interest in the schools. If the schools do well, my family does well. And you know, selfishly, I do well. So I have a vested interest in the Lynn Public Schools. But I'm also a public school teacher. I've been a teacher for 20 years. I've been a public school teacher for 17 of those 20. So I have a strong sense of education. I have a strong, understanding of educational trends, curriculum, things that are going on in education right now. So I believe all of these things make me this makes me a really strong candidate for the Lynn Public School, Lynn School Committee, excuse me. And I do this to help my community. I've lived a life of service. The career I've chosen is that I don't plan on doing anything except being a teacher. I plan on retiring a teacher. And I don't plan on being a career politician. And I think this is the best way I can serve Lynn. Bringing this knowledge that I have of children and education to the table of the Lynn School Committee and helping Lynn move forward in this really transitional time. Lynn's in a real transitional time. There's a lot of federal funds that are coming in, and I'd be excited to be a part of that. So on November 2nd, please consider Eric Dugan for Lynn School Committee. I'm number 5 on the ballot. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful night.
Great. Thank you, Eric, for your response. And last but not least, Mr. Lenny Pena.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you. First and foremost, thank you, Lynn Community Television, for hosting this forum. Thank you, Mukala. Thank you for being the host, and thank you for all the things you do with our kids. My name is Lenny Pena. I'm 50 years old. I am a lifelong Lynn resident, born and raised there. I have a beautiful family. We reside in East Lynn. I currently work with the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, so I'm used to doing a lot of public service. I'm out there in the community throughout the whole city. I work with the Lynn YMCA. I work with kids there, and I'm involved with a lot of youth sports. Many people know that I'm involved with football. I coach, mentor many kids for about 15 years, and I have 3 small children in the Lynn public school system now, and I have 3 adult children that graduated. And I'm running because I love kids, my experience with the Lynn Public Schools, and this is something that I love to do. And I'm here to work hard, and being a director of a football league, I know how to communicate with parents. I'm bilingual. Yo sé comunicar en dos idiomas, and I'm very fluent in Spanish, and that's why I'm running. I like to be a voice for all. And November 2nd, I humbly ask for one of your 6 votes. I'm number 9 on the ballot. I'm Lenny Pena. Please, thank you. Vote.
I said last Lenny, but I can't forget about the classical guy. He's a Ram. But Daniel, go ahead. You are last.
I appreciate it, Mukala. Thank you, Lynn Television, for this great opportunity in this forum and for the community input. It was very helpful. So my name is Daniel Richard. I'm running for a Lynn School Committee. I've lived in Lynn my whole life. I'm a young Latino, adopted from Colombia, came here when I was 3 months old and was given the opportunity of the American dream. Once again, I did graduate from Lynn Classical 2008. I have a son who was in the Lynn public school system. He was in Shoemaker in the coach program. So I have a perspective of what it's like to be a student in the Lynn public school systems, but I also know what it's like to be a parent of a child who is in the Lynn public school, who was in the Lynn public school systems. I'm a businessman. I work in financial services. My job is financial literacy. I get to teach families about financial services every day. So education has been a big part of my professional life, actually my whole adult life when it comes to professionalism. The business I work out of is in Lynn. I live in Lynn. I serve on many different nonprofits that deal with underprivileged kids. So I know what it's like to be an underprivileged youth in the city. I know what it's like to work with those kind of kids, but I also know what it's like to work and communicate with those kinds of families that are in our Lynn public schools. I bring a very unique perspective, but also too, I look at the Lynn public schools, and it's a very challenging time, but there's a lot of opportunity for growth, and I know I can be a part of the solution. I love challenges. I look at what's going on in the Lynn public schools, and some people might shy away from opportunities, or they may shy away from challenging times or those really hard kind of questions or decisions to make, but I really take those on, and I really embrace it, and I love those kind of opportunities. So November 2nd, I am lucky number 7 on the ballot, and I would appreciate one of your 6 votes. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you all for being a part of this candidates forum. Once again, I'd like to remind everyone there is 6 seats on the school committee, and there will be 3 new members on this committee. So this race is very important. So be sure to go out there and vote. Also, if
correction, there might be 6 new members.
Yeah, well, he says 6 new members.
3 new members.
There you go. All right. Be sure to check out a mayoral candidate forum. This Wednesday, we will be hosting a live mayoral forum here at LCTV, 7 p.m. Make sure if you have yet to submit questions for us, be sure to go to our Facebook page, send us a message. Also, if you want to catch up on the past forums that LCTV has held, be sure to visit lyntv.org and go to the video on demand. You can also watch other forums that's been held throughout the community by other community organizations on there. And last but not least, be sure to visit Lynn Community Television's website, lyntv.org, Facebook page, Lynn Community Television, YouTube channel, and all that great stuff. We will see you guys on Wednesday at 7 p.m. for the Mayoral Forum. Be sure to submit your questions beforehand. And we just like to thank everybody for participating and have a great night.
Muchas gracias, amigo. Buenas noches.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.